What's up, my fellow Michiganians, Michiganders, whatever you happen to call yourselves? Welcome to Wolverine State Sports Talk, and I want to talk about Michigan right now. I know I got a Lions jersey on; they're about to play in a few minutes, but I want to get some thoughts about the football team right now for U of M. So, first three games they've played pretty bad teams, won pretty convincingly, but they've left a little bit of meat on the bone. Maybe it didn't look quite as impressive as we were hoping, but I'm going to say this right now: I am not worried at all. Maybe a little bit about the special teams. I think that's the one where you have to worry. I think Turner has a good leg, and he had a bad game against ECU. But the punt return units, the kick return units don't look as good. I think that's a concern. However, as for the other positions on the field, I think we're in great shape. This is what's happening. So last year, Michigan played three terrible teams, just like this year. And last year, Michigan won like 60-0, 56-0. They absolutely blew teams off the field. This year, they did, but it wasn't quite as convincing. But here's what I got to say. The difference is this year, the offensive line had a few transfers take the place of starters who left. So you have Henderson, you have Nugent. I think the only two returning guys are Keegan and Barnhart. And Barnhart's moving different positions as well. So really, you only have one player on that offensive line that has been a part of this program and stayed in his spot consistently for the past 4 years. So coming into the season, there were a lot of changes on this offensive line and a lot of guys that hadn't been with this program very long. And that's big because Sharon Moore's blocking schemes are very complex. And guys have to know, hey, am I taking the down block? Am I taking the linebacker? Pass protection's complex as well, which they've done a great job with, except for yesterday. It's the run blocking that's been a little bit suspect, except for yesterday. But the point is, this team hasn't even come close to hitting midseason form yet. The fact is, last year's team was able to grasp the blocking schemes a lot quicker because they had a lot more returning starters. The only transfer they needed was Olu Oluwatimi, whereas this year they needed 3 transfers to get the ball rolling, and one guy switching positions. So, yeah, it makes sense that there's going to be some schematic mistakes. I mean, it's totally different when you've had 2 or 3 years digesting the schemes, digesting, what other players do, what the starters do ahead of you, or what you're doing as a starter, versus when you come in from a completely new program and then the offense is completely different. The fact is the continuity on this offensive line isn't quite the same as last year. So it's going to take some time for this offense to gel, and I think it's actually getting a lot better. Against Bowling Green, they moved the ball very well. I thought the offensive line did great with getting push. They struggled a little bit in pass blocking schemes. They missed a couple of blitzes, and JJ was rushed and made some bad throws. But the run blocking was terrific. I mean, Corum had a huge hole. They were getting pushed all night. Anytime we got towards the goal line, got easily in the end zone. I know it's Bowling Green and they're not good, but the fact is this offensive line is very talented. It's just understanding the schemes, The thing is, when you understand your scheme as a lineman, you make your blocks a lot better. So if Barnhart understands, hey, I got to get the linebacker instead of, double teaming this guy. Oh, wait, shoot. Now it's late in the play. I got to get this linebacker. And then just gives him barely a nudge. Now he's actually sealing him off completely. And I think we saw that against Bowling Green, as opposed to UNLV. We missed a lot of linebacker blocks against UNLV. Bowling Green, it seemed to be a lot better. So that's a plus. The fact is, if JJ doesn't have an off game, we win this game by 50. JJ just had an absolutely horrible game. But I'll say this. I think he's done well enough through his 16 starts that he gets the benefit of the doubt for one really bad start. And even so, a lot of his throws were good. There were just really 4 really bad throws. One of them happened to be a touchdown, but may have just got a little overconfident thinking, hey, we're playing Bowling Green. I can just throw deep balls all night. It seemed like it looked like me when I was 10 years old playing Madden rookie mode, I just wanted to throw the ball deep all the time, score as many points as possible, look impressive. That's the thing, you don't have to worry about looking impressive. Don't make the great throws, make the right throws. So, I'm not worried. Defense looked good. Wallace got beat on one pump and go route. That was unfortunate. The ball did get dropped, which we got lucky for, but defensive line, front sevens looked awesome. Bowling Green tried to run the ball and really didn't have any success till very, very late in the game. So the biggest thing about Michigan right now is they're not in midseason form. But does it really matter when you're 3-0? Who cares if you hit midseason form in week 1 versus week 4 or 5 when you're undefeated both years? The fact is, we're very fortunate to have a very favorable schedule before Penn State. So we have 10 whole games, I think, to get it going. Next week might be a little bit closer than some people think, but I think some people are overestimating Rutgers too. I know they've given us a hard time the past couple of years, but at the same time, they did beat Virginia Tech, but Virginia Tech didn't have their starting quarterback, and their best receiver, Ollie Jennings, is out. And they have a very thin roster, and going into Piscataway is not easy. Or not as easy as it used to be. The crowd is actually surprisingly pretty intense, but that win over Virginia Tech for Rutgers is not as impressive as it might have been 10 years ago. Let's just put it that way. Virginia Tech is still in a full rebuild mode. So Rutgers hasn't been battle-tested yet, just like we haven't been battle-tested. I think getting Harbaugh back next week will be big. And personally, I'm not worried about this Michigan football team really at all, except for special teams. That's the big thing. I don't think we have a consistent return man. Otherwise, I think we're in good shape. I'm not worried. I think the talent that we have and the potential we have to reach is very high. We just haven't hit on all our schemes yet, and that's okay. You guys got to get taken care of by midseason. I think midseason form is a thing for a reason, and when you have a team with some new starters at key positions, yeah, sometimes it takes a second to hit midseason form. So I expect to win next week. Maybe not super impressive, but I don't care if they win by 1 or by 50, honestly. I mean, I do a little bit, obviously, because it's nice to look impressive and feel better about your team. But the truth is, if they win by 1 next week, it doesn't change the fact that this team has very high potential. It just means, they're not playing great football. They're not playing up to that potential yet. And Harbaugh has a good way of getting guys to play up to that. So I'm not worried at all. I think there's one guy on Twitter that is panicking a little bit too much, and I think he knows who he is. He's panicking a little bit too much about not beating teams by 80. Like, just get off Madden rookie mode and understand that football is like a caterpillar. All the legs have to move in one direction. And if you have a busted leg or one leg that doesn't quite know what it's doing yet, then the caterpillar's not going to get moving. It doesn't matter if you're playing Bowling Green, Ohio State, Georgia. You got to have everybody moving in the same direction. And we're getting closer. I did see a lot of progress in this Bowling Green game, despite the disappointing score at halftime. So good to have Harbaugh back on the sideline this week. I think it'll make a difference. And go Blue and go Lions today. Take care.